Hi folks, it's Tony again from tonypriestley.com, and first of all I have to apologise for the fact that I haven't actually made a video for over 2 months now. I think last one was in November sometime. So anyway, I'm back and hopefully I'll make another video that you'll enjoy. A few months ago I actually made a video called, I called it a photo walkthrough, which was about me opening up one of my PSD files, one of my photographs in Photoshop, and going through all the different layers and the different processes that I do to make that image. And I quite enjoyed doing the video. Hopefully you will too, so if you hang around until after the intro, then we'll jump right into Photoshop. Okay, see you then. Okay folks, so here we are in Photoshop, and this is the photograph I'm going to talk to you briefly about. Before I do that, if you're actually watching this video on YouTube, you've stumbled across it and you have no idea who I am, I would really appreciate it if you go over to my website, which is tonypriestley.com. And check out this image and all the others in my galleries there, and check out my info as well. And if you feel you want to, you can follow me on Instagram at tonyphoto46. Okay, so this was an image. It was a part of a series of 3 images that I did, taking a light-hearted look at various revolutions that had taken place over time. The first image was about agricultural revolution. The final image was about digital revolution, and this is the middle image, which is of course about industrial revolution. Now you may notice that it's actually me on there, that I'm waving a Russian flag. I mean, the Russian Revolution had nothing to do with the Industrial Revolution, but it was a visual way of putting them together and just highlighting the revolutionary aspect of the images. And of course, it's just a bit of fun, you know. So start off by all my images. When I start off doing my conceptual images, I always want the file dimensions to be the same size, and they're always a square format as opposed to my other images. So I start off with a blank sheet, as it were, and then I add the elements to the image, the subjects, and then add various layers to correct lightness, darkness, and then finally do all the colour toning to finish the image off. Oh, and then add a texture at the very end. So in this case, it doesn't go in any order, this, and so I will have to jump back and forward, so bear with me. I started off with, boom, the grass, which was taken in a field down the lane from my house while I was walking the dog. And then what should I put on next? The background. The background is just a grey. I'm not sure it's 50% grey, but it's not far off. A grey, solid colour background, just to kind of highlight the sort of grimness, the gritty industrial colour that I wanted to put on there. And then cover that with a mist or a fog or smoke, whatever you want to call it. This basically was a brush that I designed in Photoshop from a cloud, and basically you play around with the properties of that brush to make it behave in different ways. So you can make it behave like a mist, or you can make it behave like smoke, just by changing the properties of the actual individual brushes. So the next thing I did was put me, which was me, cut my head off, And I'm cheating here a little bit because this was actually done before I constructed the image. Basically, it's just a piece of plastic piping that I'm holding. And I looked, for the flag itself, I looked online at various stock images. I couldn't really find one that I really liked. Or they were too small, the resolution of the images were too small. And so I decided to make my own in Photoshop. The material came from a photo shoot that I did with a model a while ago. The actual original material was blue, so I changed it to red. And then I went online and found a stock image of the hammer and the sickle and the star. So I put them all together and made the flag, basically. And then, in place of my head, if I find, so where is it? There it is, chimney. Boom. The chimney, which was a chimney from a nuclear power station that's about an hour's drive from here. I took the photograph many years ago. And then I put in the background somewhere a factory, which was a stock image that I took off of the internet. And then I did smoke. So if I go back and down again, there's boom, that's a smoke. Again with the same brush that I made the background mist, fog, whatever, with, but I changed the properties and obviously changed the colour to make it behave more like a black smoke that's coming out of the chimney. And then I added smoke coming out of the factory chimneys at the back. And then I added some smoke in front of the factory there, just to make it fit in a bit better. What else? If you look at my feet, I just put a bit of grass in there just to make it look as though I was actually standing there in the first place, when I wasn't. And then there was another little bit of smoke in front of there it is, in front of the chimney. Again, just in front of the big chimney there. It's subtle, but it just makes it look a bit more realistic, I think. And then everything else basically was just playing around with the shades of light and dark. So if you look at, I was clearly too bright. Oh, this is the grass. So the grass was too bright, so I darkened it down with one curves layer. And then again, darkened it down again, but with more targeted darkness around the sort of central part of the grass. And then the rest, all these layers here are actually just not affecting the whole image. They're only affecting both myself and the flag. So I was too bright, obviously, so I darkened myself down and the flag. Then I think darkened it down again, but again a more targeted sort of darkening, for want of a better word. And I used a layer mask to just to do a selective shading. And then curves layer, what to do with basically darkening down again slightly, again just a targeted shading. And then there's a hue saturation layer, which it's subtle, but it's taking down the saturation of the image. I was too blue, the flag was too red, so I've darkened them down, not darkened them, sort of desaturated them slightly. And if you, if you go into this hue saturation, you'll see I've dropped the saturation of everything, which is the master. And then if you go down to the reds, I've actually lifted the red slightly for the flag. And if you go into the blues, I've desaturated myself, the blues in my overalls slightly more. And then I decided that it was a little bit too dark, so my torso I lit up slightly. then the chimney was too bright, so I darkened down the chimney, as you can see. And then after that, it was just a case of doing all the final colour grading. It's not particularly difficult image to construct. So the first one was a curves layer, which basically, as you can see, it crushes the blacks, lifts the very dark blacks, and gives the whole image a kind of a matte look to it. And then that was colour grading. I turned everything slightly green there, which it's not something I do usually. I don't usually play around with the green colours because I don't like it. I prefer to work with reds and blues. But in this case, it seemed to be fitting as it highlighted the image and made it look more grimy and grim and industrial, obviously. And then I added what they call a colour lookup table, or a 3D LUT, as they call it, which doesn't seem to do a lot, but it adds a bit more contrast. And if I open it up, I'll check, because there are lots of different ones, as you can see, and you can make your own. This is candlelight, and basically it adds a little bit of contrast and just gives it a more cinematic look. 3D LUTs were actually invented by the film industry to colour tone their films and add that cinematic effect, and they work just as well in photographs as well, so take full advantage of them. And then I added a vignette on the outside, darkened it down, as I always do, and then finally I added first of all an overall texture to again highlight the sort of gritty industrial griminess of the image. And then I wanted a bit more. I thought I was standing out a bit too much, and so I added another one, but just a selective texture on my trousers. I think my arms as well. I think it's a bit on there, and then the grass behind me. And that was it basically. I tried to make the image look like the old communist propaganda posters of the Russian workers working in the fields or working in the factories, showing their strength, their power, their industrial might, and so hopefully you'll agree that it's kind of along those lines, but obviously a little bit different, a bit more conceptual, with the chimney sticking out of my t-shirt. Anyway, so that's it, and I hope you enjoyed that. I'll sign off from here and hand myself back to myself on the other side. Okay folks, there it was. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did, and don't forget to subscribe if you like it, or give it a thumbs up in YouTube, and don't forget that the links to my Instagram account and my website are in the description just below. Thanks now, see you again, bye.